Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk for America.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday. This is the Big Football Show. I'm a special host today, filling in for the great Mac. Mac is out today, but we hope to see him again soon. I'm with my fellow family members of the Northeast Professional Sports Platform, Jack and J-Train. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, guys. How are y'all?
Good morning. Doing well. How you doing?
I am doing well, and you guys heard it first. Download the Roku app so you too can be in the know with 24/7 sports without the cost of cable. That's my slogan. Shout out to Mac and Linda over there, the great producers. You guys, it's football Sunday. Gonna have some big kickoffs today. Panthers are on a bye. Let me get that out the way first. Jack, what's going on in your neck of the woods with these Jets?
Well, you know, we should talk. I live in New York. We should talk about New York State, not New York City, because the big, game of the day is in New York State. The Kansas City Chiefs visiting the Buffalo Bills. But by the time that game is played, I would have known what happened with the Jets. They're playing at home against the Indianapolis Colts, a team that's struggling kind of the way they are. And the big story of the Jet-Colt game isn't going to be Aaron Rodgers and the Jets' struggles. It's actually going to be the Colts, Anthony Richardson reclaiming the starting job, coming back. And the Colts are getting very antsy. They want to know whether or not they have their franchise quarterback or not. By all accounts, he's a good kid. He's a good guy, but he lacks maturity in the sense as far as putting in the time, putting in the work. That's something you could lecture him on Sonia, with all the work in the profession that you're putting in. There are no shortcuts. There are no shortcuts around film study, in every little detail. And they think because they benched him for a couple of games, maybe he got the memo now. So we'll see what he does against the Jets. I think that's the big storyline objectively. What do you think, Jim?
Yeah, definitely the big story. That's what I was going to say too, and get ready to parallel to pivot to James on this, because Anthony Richardson missed all of last season, if not, most of it. So this is his second go round. And so is it really just a discipline issue? I mean, yes, we know injuries happen, but James, like James said, is it just that he needs some better discipline? Because maybe if he is better disciplined, perhaps that may cause him to play better so that he doesn't risk himself to more injury. What are your thoughts?
Look, Anthony Richardson is who he is at this point. I think you really don't have continuity with him at quarterback, and Flacco's not that. I mean, he's a little bit better option, but obviously Flacco's a lot older quarterback, and teams are beginning to figure him out. So, I mean, right at this moment, I think to be conservative, they need to run the ball more. Jonathan Taylor looks to be in good form, and you should just give him the ball a lot more. And Anthony Richardson should use his legs more than using his arm. They should allow him, and he just needs to learn how to slide. Allow him to utilize his talents where they're working right now, and that would be running. And I think going up against the Jets' run defense, it was been a little suspect. They might have some options there. But as far as biggest storyline to me, it's still, if Aaron Rodgers is on the field, he's always going to be the big storyline here, no matter what team they're playing, because of the shenanigans. And I just think the Jets right now, I've been a defender of Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, and I thought they would be like the team of their division, and it just totally went the opposite way. And so I don't know what to say about that. I just think, I can't make Anthony Richardson the story. It has to always be Aaron Rodgers because of everything that's going on with them or not going right with them.
And totally agree on that. And good morning to you, Richard, coming in. And let's welcome our sports extraordinaire as well, Mr. Keith Engel. Keith, TGI Sports Talk host and Patriots fan. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Jack sounds just like James. Everybody's in the wrong place here, and I thought Jack was James talking up there.
Oh my goodness, Keith, you're coming in just on the Anthony Richardson talk. He's reacclimating back again. I guess he's out back. We don't know. Had a kid last year. He's supposed to be recuperating. I guess he's not 100% down. Go figure. And I'm not too sold on him, honestly. What are your thoughts?
Well, I was never sold on Richardson when he was the I don't know what number he went. What did he go? 6?
Number 4. Number 4 overall.
4. He goes number 4. He was, had a middling college career, and they draft him based off of his athleticism, basically altogether. And this is what happens when you draft athletes instead of quarterbacks. This is what can happen. So, I don't know that he's ever.
Whoa, Kate. Lamar Jackson went behind a few quarterbacks like Sam Darnold. Of course, it was Josh Rosen. It's good he went behind Josh Allen for the Bills. But the point is, Lamar Jackson was such an athletic quarterback at Louisville, and the Colts feared they could be making a big mistake if they bypassed Anthony Richardson. He didn't play much in college, as you know.
Right.
But the upside was so great, they were fearful, just
Lamar Jackson.
They never live it down if they didn't take him.
But Lamar Jackson, you knew what you were getting. He was a great college player. He's a Heisman Trophy candidate in his senior year. He's a great player at Louisville. And so, again, you've got some evidence that he can play quarterback at the next level.
He went about number 32 in the draft.
I know where he went. No, I know where he went. I'm just saying, you don't take a chance by drafting a guy who we have no evidence of, like Richardson, who was not good and didn't hardly play because he was hurt a lot at Florida. And you can't be scared and draft a guy in the number 4 spot. You're going to set your franchise back for years, which the Colts likely have.
And Jack, a lot of those teams are paying for not picking Lamar Jackson, including my Saints, for not, letting him slide all the way to 32.
Yeah, but Keith is the expert on college quarterbacks and these 4-year starters. We hear, they have maturity. They don't pan out. The Desmond Ritters, Pickett, they just don't pan out, a lot of these guys. Just because they're 4-year starters and they got all this experience.
You didn't say the name.
Playing to the NFL.
You didn't say the name you want to say, though. Say the name you want to say. Will Levis. I know you want to say Will Levis.
No, I mean, Will Levis is still auditioning, okay? And the audition isn't going too well with Tennessee.
There's no exact science. The only science is you don't take a quarterback in the top 10 because it never works out. Historically, I think I gave you the numbers. It's less than 9% of those guys ever even go to the playoffs, much less a Super Bowl. So it's a gamble. That is it worth taking and risking? You better trade back and find quarterbacks in the 6th round, the 4th round, the 3rd round.
It's definitely one of those things that we got to keep an eye on college football. And you are our college football guy, Keith. Got a lot of upsets from yesterday. Before we get started on that, let's go ahead and greet Danny. Good morning to you. And good morning, Linda. Good morning, Linda. We all send you all our love. We miss you guys. She says, good morning, everyone. Mac and I appreciate all of you. Thank you for all of your love and support. We still have at least a few more days to go. Linda, we send you all our best wishes and our prayers and all that good stuff. And we love you all so much. And we just appreciate you all on this amazing platform. Thanks for chiming in this morning, Linda. And give Mac our big hug. Guys, you want to send some messages over while we got our attention?
100%.
Yep, I agree. And we miss you guys. Can't wait to see you when you come back, Matt.
And I hate saying this. I hope Matt goes 3-0 in his picks today. I've never wished him that type
No,
of
I don't want him that much.
But I
luck.
hope he
Get
goes
healthy.
3-0.
I want him to get healthy.
I do. We got you, Matt. We got you, Linda. All right. And Richard is saying, hey, Keith, Georgia may have played their way back into the playoffs. Perfect segue, Richard. Keith, our college expert here. Go ahead. There's a couple of upsets from yesterday, but take it away.
Listen, 7 teams in the top 25 go down again, or 6. We have 7 teams lose yesterday in the top 25, 2 in the top 6. LSU, unfortunately, James is probably now they're done. They had a small window left. They had to run the table and get some help. But Georgia, to Rick's point, definitely played their way back in, beating Tennessee, who's probably I've got them falling to where Georgia was this week, actually, which was just on the outside looking in. Or not, because Boise State, one of the big stories of this with BYU losing last night, with Tennessee losing, Boise State is in a pretty good position to get one of those 4 top slots and get a bye in the first round if they were to run the table, because the Big 12 is not going to be the higher ranked conference. This is what has been fun about the expanded playoff. People worried about the regular season not meaning anything. The conference championships may mean less than the regular season means, because this has been exciting. We've had up and down. These polls right now don't mean a lot, because until the December 12th, I'm not sure what the date is, around December 10th or 12th, whenever the final poll is, that's when it'll matter. There's going to be a lot of movement again this week. Notre Dame will probably get to up as high as 6, where we thought they were dead 2 months ago. Ole Miss, we thought was dead. They'll be solidly in as of this week, not playing this week, or not having played this week. Just so you know, Army, by the way, is in their first conference championship ever against Tulane in the AAC. There's so many great stories. Indiana, big game against Ohio State next week. Unless they lose badly, they're probably in the tournament no matter what, in the playoff no matter what. But a lot of fun. Oregon gets pushed to the brink yesterday against Wisconsin. So a lot of great football. And if you're a college football fan, I've said this a lot for the last 2 years. The game is getting so complicated and so convoluted and so messy off the field. We still need to have that high energy, high excitement on Saturdays for me to still feel the way I do about college football. So far, I do, because Saturdays are still great. Still great, even with all the other nonsense that goes on.
Keith, what's the biggest story?
And the same thing about Army. Chris coming on saying good morning and talking about Army, and of course, Danny following up with the LSU comment. Go ahead, Jack. My apologies about that.
Keith, that's okay. Keith, what is the biggest storyline that's developing at the moment in college football? Could it be to talk, well, maybe bench Quinn Ewers, who's been less than stellar, for Arch Manning? We're starting to hear that. Is that the biggest storyline? Is it Army is having an unexpectedly good season, or what?
Yeah, Texas. I mean, that's going to be a story that's not going to go away. But I don't see Ewers getting benched yet. I mean, they're winning games. He played one really bad game, and I don't think that's the biggest story. When you've got stories like Indiana, nobody wins in Indiana. Kurt Singretti, who just got a huge contract extension yesterday, is 10-0 going into Ohio State next week. That's a huge story. Army being very much alive, if Boise State were to stumble, being very much alive for a playoff, is a huge story. I mean, they haven't been ranked this high in 70 years. So these are great. That's what, and Notre Dame's a great story, fighting back. Brian Kelly getting an argument with his players on the sideline. Oh, that's not a big story. That's
well, Deion Sanders
just kidding.
Is a major story. Any chance of leaving Colorado? Because Shedeur Stevens' son is going to be gone next year. Travis Hunter's going to be gone. Is it a question with Deion Sanders? Let me get out of here while I'm ahead.
It's possible. I mean, there's a job probably going to be open that he would probably jump at. I think it would be probably a nightmare in Dallas with him. But I know Jerry Jones would eat him up in a second. I'm surprised. That's one place I have to do a mea culpa here in the college football ranks, is I did not see this coming. I thought Colorado was heading for a similar season as last year, and he's got that team playing great football. Travis Hunter, if you watch the highlights yesterday, Travis Hunter may very well have won the Heisman Trophy yesterday.
Yep.
I think too.
And
Yeah, Colorado has really bounced back, and I'm gonna be honest. You guys know last season I was the biggest Colorado critic because I was so upset that it just became such a spectacle
Yep.
of concerts and who's who that was at the game and not that much playing. And I felt like Deion had a job to do, and his presence does bring like all of that with it. But I felt like it was a little bit much for a college team to take on. But it looks like this year, they've got their stride. Shador is not likes on the sidelines as much. Looks like he took Tom Brady's advice, started reading that book in the offseason, and looks like they may have turned that situation around over in Colorado.
Well, they've got two regular season games left, and they control their own destiny to get into playoff. If they win all their games in the conference championship game, which they're in pretty good shape for right now, they're going to be in the playoff no matter what. And I would not have ever predicted it before the season. So
if they go 1-1, is there a possibility they'll get in? Because Deion Sanders in Colorado mean TV ratings, and that's always considered.
It depends on where that loss is. If they win convincingly the next 2 weeks and maybe lose a close conference championship game, I'm not convinced the Big 12 or the ACC is going to get 2 bids. I'm not sure either one will.
So competitive. It's too many seats that are, there. And it's like you're adding these people to different, scenarios. And then it just becomes more competitive instead of at first, I think when they were bringing everybody together, they were talking about making it more easier for other teams to get in. I'm just like, at that point, cancel all the other prerequisites you have for getting in and just make it a different situation all around.
Well, it's there's going to be a lot of SEC and Big Ten teams in, and we already knew that. There'll be, I guess, what I didn't count on. I thought there would be more SEC teams, but the Big Ten is better than we thought with Indiana being so good. Penn State, regardless of what we think of James Franklin or I think of James Franklin, they're probably going to make the playoff unless they fall on their faces in one of the next 2 weeks.
So SEC play is cannibalizing itself. I think that's a lot of big things there. And also going back to speaking on Colorado, you mentioned Colorado's success or improved success. A lot of it has to do with their interior, meaning the O-line and D-line play. And we contribute that. They mentioned even on the game how Warren Sapp has done a great job with the defensive line.
Tremendous job. And that's one of the places they had to improve, and they did. And the offensive line, which isn't still great, it's not as bad as it was last year, when it was horrendous. And Jack, one more thing about them getting in as an at-large. With 3 losses, I'm not sure you can get a Colorado in there. You could make it at Alabama, Georgia, somebody in like that with the 3 losses, but Colorado's going to be a tough sell.
Well,
It's so weird.
that would be given a mulligan, I would think, because of TV ratings of Colorado and Notre Dame if they needed it, because, those are 2 teams people are going to want to tune in for.
I agree, but they're 2 teams that really can't afford another loss. Notre Dame, whoever they were to lose to, is going to be looked at as a bad loss. Army maybe wouldn't be a bad loss for Army for Notre Dame right now, but it's still, I don't think they can afford another loss and be sure thing. They'd probably be still on the cusp.
Just
Another loss.
a quick question. Travis Hunt, okay, you feel basically lapped up the Heisman. Is he a lock to be the first non-quarterback selected in the NFL draft?
I would say yes. Maybe the first pick, because the quarterbacks I'm not in love with coming out. I think he could very well be the first pick, depending who gets it and what happens trade-wise with it. I think he's got a very good shot of being the first pick in the draft.
Yeah, Travis Hunter's name has been everywhere. And this is just one of those situations we see that it matters who your team is. Like you said, 3 losses for Colorado is different from 3 losses with Alabama. And speaking of, there was a huge upset yesterday, Mizzou and the South Carolina game, 34-30. I mean, Mizzou has these moments where they look better than we thought. And South Carolina has just not looked at the same time as best as they were. What were your thoughts on that game, guys? Anybody can chime in on this.
Yeah. I'm not shocked, by the way, real quick. South Carolina plays very good at home. Shane Beamer's a really good coach. They've been up and down, but they've had to replace their quarterback. They've had to replace a lot of players this year. They're ranked in the top 23. They're probably going to be in the inside the top 20, I would think, this week. And Mizzou's been one of the biggest disappointments. They started out 5 or 6, I think, in the preseason polls, and they've had some bad losses. South Carolina's played good football for the most part, up and down though.
Thank you, Chris. He said, if Keith's college football takes don't wake you up, then check your pulse. All hail National Streaming Sports. Thank you, Chris, so much for that. And Steve-O coming in saying good morning and saying Oregon should have lost. Those Ducks just keep on cracking.
Very tough to go to. Excuse me, Camp Randall's a tough place to play in Wisconsin. I keep saying that's a tough place. Their numbers don't, jump off the page. Luke Fickell's had a tough first couple of years there, but they're still competitive, especially at home. And they gave Oregon everything they could handle last night.
Yeah, and Linda chimed in a moment ago. I don't know if you guys saw the comment. She said he's on injured reserve. So that's how we're going to classify Mr. Mack. He's just on IR for just a tad. Definitely not all season like some of our quarterbacks have been going down. All right, so Keith, what was your favorite game of yesterday, or should I say your shocking game, as far as the winner loser?
My favorite game yesterday, I would say that the Tennessee Georgia game was a fun game to watch. Tennessee looked like they were going to take control of this game early. Georgia shows that Kirby Smart is one of the great coaches, and I bet Tennessee yesterday because I thought Georgia really wasn't up to snuff, and their inconsistency was going to continue to bite them. And Carson Beck leads this team back, plays a great game last night, and that was probably my favorite game, even though I lost. Probably my favorite game. The game that surprised me the most, Kansas beating BYU at home. Something was wrong there. Somebody said on my college football show, what's wrong with this line at 2.5 at home? Kansas has been another huge disappointment this year, and they take it to BYU on the road. So,
yeah, I could not believe that. I saw that.
Carson Beck in the beginning of the year was projected in some places to go as high as number 1 in the NFL draft, in the next draft. And his stock kind of plummeted a bit. Yesterday, was it a rebound? Did he make himself a top 5 selection conceivably again?
Not sure if he rebounded that high. He's hurt his stock more than anybody, maybe as far as the draft goes this year with his up and down play. One game up doesn't really erase all the inconsistencies I've seen up until yesterday. He's got the capability to be a great quarterback at times, but he makes too many mistakes, mental lapses. But certainly a big game for him and the Bulldogs yesterday, because as Rick kind of alluded to, people, including myself, were questioning whether they were worthy of a playoff spot. And again, they bounced back with a game that shows me they are. But Carson Beck is going to have to play like he played yesterday the rest of the way if they're going to actually make some noise come playoff time.
Because between the 4 of us here, Keith, you're the only one whose team has no interest in drafting a quarterback, because your Patriots have Dre May, Sonia with Bryce Young. Chances are the Panthers, if they can pick high enough, are going to go for a quarterback. They're not going to stick with Bryce Young unless he really comes on the rest of the year. The Saints with Derek Carr, I doubt it unless he goes gangbusters the rest of the year. And with the Jets with Aaron Rodgers, you got to find a young quarterback.
I don't think you're going to see more than 2 or 3 quarterbacks in the first round. I just don't see this as a great quarterback class. And there's nobody that I would say I'm going to put the future of my franchise in this guy's hands, really high. So I hope the Patriots find a way to fall into Travis Henry. That's what I hope.
Shedeur Sanders will go very high.
Yeah,
he will.
Will be a top 3 pick.
Yeah, and I'm still not sure about his game at the next level. We'll see. He's a really good college quarterback. We'll see. And he's played with no offensive line, so I probably ought to give him a little more credit than I do. A lot of rumors about him and the Giants.
Him and the Raiders.
The Raiders too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it is, guys. We last year, this present draft was heavily saturated with quarterbacks. I mean, they were just like everywhere. Yeah. And now you have this season that they're not as thick. Keith, I know you only got a few more minutes here with us. You got to get out of here and get ready to do your show. What are your thoughts on all of that Jack is saying? Because we're not that impressed. We know that Shador's name has come up here and there. Is this one of those situations kind of akin to like Bronny and LeBron, where your name kind of just puts you over that threshold of being in the top tier, or where's his performance there?
The name hasn't hurt him for sure, but it's a little different than Bronny because he's also produced and shown that he can play the game at a very high level. Obviously, at a high level in a high level conference, or two high level conferences now. So it's a little different than the Bronny situation, who really hadn't proven anything and was drafted only because of his name value. Shedeur can play. It's a question of how well he'll play, I think, at the next level. Listen, I don't dislike the kid. I think he seems like a good kid, and he doesn't have. Maybe he'll have his dad's swagger at some point. He's got a little bit of it, but not quite the DM swagger. Again, he's not the best player in that team. I don't know how good he'd be without Hunter. People forget that Travis Hunter played 130 plays yesterday. 130. Nobody's been doing that since Jack was in college in the 40s.
Chuck Bednarik, the last great player. 1960 Philadelphia Eagles championship team.
Hey Sonia, let's get Keith's NFL picks before he rolls in.
My picks. Jeez, I forgot. I gotta find my the email I sent you because I forgot.
I got them right here. Keith, you got the Jets -4, Cincinnati +1, and KC +1.
That's it. Kansas City continues to roll in Buffalo. Buffalo's Kansas City curse will continue.
Ooh, that's rough. All right.
Hey, listen,
well, Keith, you got to hop over.
What's that, Sonia?
Yeah, Keith, thanks for gracing us with your presence. I'm going to give you a couple extra minutes to get set up on your next show. Y'all check him out. You see he's on TGI Sports Talk, and you can support him by sending stars and all that good stuff.
One more thing before I go. I got to apologize to Sonia. I've realized I was spelling her name wrong for like 3 years now or something, because I apologize. I did get it right yesterday, though.
You got it right. I was so proud of you. Thanks for that, Keith. Yeah, I actually just celebrated my 1-year anniversary with you guys on Friday with the platform. So thank you all for embracing me here. It's such a blessing. It feels longer, right?
Yes. In a good way.
In a great way. Thanks for dropping in, Keith. Have a great day. Y'all hop over and check them out.
Enjoy the game.
Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye. All right, everybody. That was Keith Engle. You can check him out on TGI Sports, and you can check him out on this wonderful platform, Northeast Professional Sports. J-Train, you got to segue into the best part. Let's go ahead and take care of some of those picks going in. You can start with yourself or Jack or me, whoever you prefer. I gotta make sure.
Yeah. Well, let's go with Jack first. Jack, tell us your picks and why.
Sure, I'm gonna take the Tennessee Titans. Now the points change. I always put down my picks early in the week, and I'm only going to change it if a major injury, occurs. But I'm taking the Titans, and last I saw, they were 6-point underdogs against the Vikings. The Titans are at home. This is a big game for Sam Darnold with the Vikings, because the honeymoon period of Darnold being the Viking quarterback is kind of just about gone, because he's been struggling. And even though they won last week, he throws 3 picks in a 12-7 victory over Jacksonville. Just the score itself sounds pathetic for a quarterback. You're winning 12-7. And now if he can't win at Tennessee, Sam Darnold, if he can't turn in a top-of-the-line performance, and I know Tennessee doesn't have as bad a defense as people think. Their struggles have been more on offense. That will reflect bad, on Darnold. But he's not going to be the Viking quarterback of the future. It's apparent now. They'll be committed to J.J. McCarthy unless the Vikings somehow turn around and win the Super Bowl, which is doubtful. Okay, I'm also going to take the Cincinnati Bengals. They're playing against the Chargers. So the Bengals are a 1.5 underdog. Are they a point favorite now?
No, they're still a point underdog. Yep.
Point underdog. I'm going to take the Bengals. We hear all these teams with mediocre records saying, "Oh, we could go on a run and make the playoffs like the Jets." And I feel like saying to Aaron Rodgers, "Shut up! Don't talk about the playoffs when you're 3-7." Bengals are 4-6. They're the one team that conceivably can go on a bit of a run, and if they get into the playoffs, look out! They're a serious threat. Don't give them that opening if I'm the other teams to get into the playoffs. I think they start a playoff run today. I don't know whether they get that. They're 4-6. At most, they can afford one loss in the remaining 7 games. At most, they have to go at least 6-1 realistically to make the playoffs. But I think they beat the Chargers today, and I think the Chargers have overachieved with Jim Harbaugh, who's done a magnificent coaching job, to have him at 6-3, and it bodes well for the Charger future when they add, with their personnel as well. And my third pick, I'm going to take the Miami Dolphins. I'm going to give 7.5 points to the Raiders. The Dolphins at home with Tua back. The Raiders flat out aren't good. And the Dolphins, they're ready to win their second game in a row. They're ready to go on a little bit of a run. It's not going to result in them getting in the playoffs, but they're much better than the record would indicate. With Tua out, it hurt them really badly. They maybe lost a couple of games they could have won with Tua out. And I think they pretty much dominate against the Raiders, beat them by 17 points itself.
Jack, I agree with you about Minnesota game. Sam Darnold, just like I think he's regressing a little bit. And also the Miami game. Look, Miami, I think this is a defense of the Raiders that really has nothing going. They're very dysfunctional, and I like the Miami offense to bounce back to. He's going to find his stride. A lot of those receivers and players are there. Even though Tyreek Hill is dealing with a wrist injury, I think he's good enough to be able to still, be a decoy and get Waddle, not OJ, but Odell Beckham and not Aiden O'Connell, A-Chain, Devon A-Chain. Very good offense, and I think they're going to get back on track. And I think some of the games are in their favor to be able to win. But the one game you mentioned was Cincinnati, and I see a lot of you guys pick that Cincinnati game. I just don't see. I think it's going to be hard to go up against. I think people are underrating the Chargers and what they, like you said, what Jim Harbaugh has been able to do with little there. I think that team going up against their run game, going up against the Cincinnati's defense, I think they control the game and keep Burrow and Jamar Chase off the field, because those guys are lighting it up. But sneakily, the Chargers have a number 9 pass defense, so their defense is actually pretty good. I think I like to win with them and out at home, in LA. I just like them a little bit better than the Chargers. And the Chargers defense, they only have Trey Hendrickson on defense, the sack master, and he's been on and off, here and there. So, yeah, but
I mean, Cincinnati's been hurt this year, and the Chargers are more pound and ground type team. So they're not going to put up, I think, a lot of points against the Cincinnati defense.
Right.
And Danny says good morning again, and he says Keith has the losing Chiefs. Good morning to you, Carol. Thank you for the anniversary wishes. This is an amazing platform, the best platform. I kid you not. Like, we are family here. Love these gentlemen. I'm so glad.
Wait, Sonia, what do you mean if ESPN comes calling, you're not going to switch over to me?
I'm not saying that.
You're staying loyal to this network.
If ESPN calls me,
Fox Network.
If they call me, I still am going to ask them to let me come on here, because this is what I love. Like, you all are the reason why I got the exposure. Let's be honest. So yeah, if they call me, I'm still going to say, hey, I'm still part of the platform, and I'm bringing these guys with me. So do you have room for my other guests and their shows? So let's all do a whole contract. It's going to be for the benefit. I'm going to lawyer my way through that one, Jack.
Well, you'll attempt to. You'll mention it until they say no, and then you'll sign the contract and go solo.
I'll come on. And hello to you, Carol, as well. And Chris says that he loves this, that he can feel a lot of upsets in his gut on today. And I had to find my pick. So go ahead, J Train, with the rest of your. Everybody's picking up Cincinnati game though.
Hey, you are. I got yours here. If you want me to give them to you.
Yeah, I got Atlanta, Cincinnati, and Vegas.
Yes, that's correct.
You have Las Vegas?
I should have picked the opposite. I just was hurrying, but who knows? I may be lucky by saying them, you know.
Well, go tell us why. Let's go over your picks right now. Let's see. You got Atlanta.
Yeah, and you know, every time Jack is around me, I don't want to say no brainer, but it just became my word.
I got J Train. I need a little favor for you, a stat favor.
Sure.
Going forward, keep the stats how often Sonia says no brain on the game, so we can refer to it later on how many of her no brainers came through.
Going forward, yes.
There's a 3-8 record with her no brainers.
We probably gonna have like a clip. Nope, no brainer. Like you guys do an end of the year mix of all the. It's a no brainer. It's a no brainer. It's a no brainer. It's gonna be like me of all the different times that I've said it.
I like it.
Yeah. So the Atlanta game today, they're playing Denver. I just don't think, even if Atlanta loses, that the point spread is going to equal out to that, because I think that Atlanta is stacked on both sides of the ball. Even though they're going to the Mile High City out there, you know, with all the elements in the air and the acclimation of that within itself may just not be enough to slow them down. Sean Payton has a way of playing differently against the NFC South, and I honestly have seen that. I mean, you all saw that when they were when it was Saints night for Drew Brees, and literally I was just like, even though that's awesome that Sean Payton is the one that is the coach for him to come in it was just horrible as far as the game went, because, you know, gosh, I just didn't like that. I was hoping it would be like a reunion for them, but that the Saints could still at least win for those intensive purposes. But we saw how he literally dialed it all the way up. And the Broncos are coming off of a loss, if I remember correctly, last week, one that I honestly didn't know that they would lose because they have been playing pretty good. This is going to be a good game. It may be low scoring. Denver has a propensity for being a defensive team. And so I think they dial it up and hold that offense down. This may be, I think, what was the point spread on it? 6 points?
I think it's 4.5. Let's see.
Oh, 4.5?
Let me make sure.
Has it changed?
No, excuse me. -1. Broncos -1.
Okay, so see, even Vegas knows it's going to be a close game, but I'm not thinking it's going to be that. I'm thinking it's going to be like 3 points. So that's why I picked Atlanta regardless, because I think it's going to come down to a field goal as to which team actually wins. The Cincinnati game, I go along with what Jack says. Even though Cincinnati has not looked like what we really thought they should look like or what we've seen them look like in the past, Joe Burrow has had these up and down games. And so today, let me see. I had like a whole little spiel here, what I want to say. Today they're playing the Chargers, and I'm just not sold on this JH reunion. Jim Harbaugh, Justin Herbert. I'm just not sold on all the hype that was around that team. They are 6-3, which isn't bad, but I just think once again this is going to be one of those situations that the point spread has it incorrect. So that's why I picked them on that one. Then the Vegas game, I told you I'm probably wrong on that one because it was a mistake. I was more so saying, hey, I'm picking the Vegas game, and I typed LV, and so I'm stuck with it now because it's in writing. So whatever the point spread is for that, both of these teams, it's going to be a septic system fest down in Miami today. Garbage versus garbage, poop everywhere. The Raiders are 2-7. They're itching for another win. I know if they don't win today, they're probably going to be like maybe the second or almost up to the first pick for the draft. They don't turn things around now. It's going to depend on how Tua plays. You know, there have been mentions of him not wanting to wear this head equipment and not playing up to his ability. And so there has been rumblings in Miami about possibly benching him. for whatever reasons. But Miami at home should get it done, but they're only 3-6 themselves. So again, slugfest. So I'm going to go ahead and stick with Antonio Pierce on his last days in Las Vegas, all the way in Miami today.
Well, you advocated for Antonio Pierce to be the.
Yeah, you know what, Jack? You're such a historian. Every time I turn around, you need to be clip master. I'm gonna start calling you the clip master because
these interim coaches. There's a danger involved, and J Train is actually going through that, whether he realizes it or not. To say,
Yeah.
Well, he already knows.
An interim coach. They won last week. They have a good chance of winning today because they play Cleveland. And all of a sudden, they'll have a winning record the rest of the year. And people are going to say, and the players bring back.
It's very deceptive.
What's his name? Rizzi, the new coach.
Darren Rizzi, yeah.
Rizzi,
yeah,
the new coach. Bring him back, give him a contract, and it just usually doesn't work out. They're interim coaches.
Well,
Totally.
I'm going to say this with Steve Wilks, though. Panthers fans are still upset about how Steve Wilks was not hired on with the team because we had like 5-6 wins in a row with him. And to this day, there's some fans that
No, they didn't win 5-6 in a row. I think they went something like 5-5 or whatever. They had
in a row with him.
They didn't win the division. They had a chance.
Right.
He did okay. He got fired the next season as the 49er defensive coordinator.
Yeah, but that was a scapegoat thing. We know the 49ers, they lost the game.
Scapegoated in Arizona when he got fired before coming to the Panthers. Come on, I'm not saying it would have been wrong to hire him, but it was kind of iffy. Let's be honest about it. No one was going to succeed at Carolina the way things were going before. Maybe the next person turns things around.
He couldn't wait to say that, J-Train. He couldn't wait to say that.
No. These games the rest of the year for the teams that have very little chance of making the playoffs, they mean a lot more than people realize. We're going to see who's quitting, who's playing hard the rest of the year, the character involved. The Jets, for example, last week, it was a disgrace against Arizona. They quit.
It's a disgrace since y'all got Aaron Rodgers.
I'm not blaming just Aaron Rodgers. It was like a group effort all around there. But, certainly the teams are playing hard. But I'm going to tell you, I mentioned a little while ago about the Bengals at 4-6. It's an extra crucial game because if you look at the wild card standings in the AFC, either the Steelers or the Ravens, whoever doesn't win that division, they're going to be a wild card team. And practically everything is up for grabs. The Chargers are 6-3. If the Bengals beat them, they're a game and a half behind. In reality, it'll be more like one game. And they'll be in position to nab that last spot. Denver's 5-5. Let's face it, they're not that good. Maybe they could go 10-7. Maybe they'll go 9-8. Before we know, they'll go 8-9. But these teams, I can understand. Even like the Jets, the Dolphins, if they go on a big run, of course they could snag a playoff position still. But I think it's more important how these teams finish up the season. Because I know as a Jet fan, 2 seasons I remember in the Jet team history. They were 1-7 once on a 14-game schedule, and they won their last 6. And they were 2-8 another season, and they won their last 6 to go at 500. You take something out of it, I believe, if you do that. Sometimes it's just an illusion, but sometimes it means a lot because the group of guys you have are so raring to go for next season. You're actually building something.
It's how you finish. And speaking of that, we got to finish up with J-Train's picks. We didn't even get there, Jack, because you started, down in the Panthers and bringing your Jets up to a level of respect, which they don't deserve. So, J-Train, what are you now? Who did you have? I can't even get my words out. Jack, just combobulated. Who did you have for your picks?
I got the Lions -14. I think they're going to cover against the Jags. I have, that's a big cover, but I just think they're going to do it.
That's a ballsy pick. 14, and you went for that game?
It's actually 14.5. So,
my God.
At home.
Right.
Yeah. Right. So, I got Green Bay -6. And I got
gutsy one.
Buffalo +1 against KC. I think they're going to get their first loss today.
Oh, wow. You pick. He get ready to go 0-3, Jack.
We'll see.
Well, the
We'll see.
biggest trap game of all, I would think, would be the Lions in Jacksonville. I agree with James. The Lions are going to cover. I would think they'd win by about 20 points when all is said and done. But for those who want to take the points, there should be optimism. Jacksonville has been tough all year. I mean, they've just been losing games. The biggest problem with the Jags, they can't finish games at the end. Trevor Lawrence, he just can't finish drives at the end, and it's become like a bit alarming. But
he's not in the game. He's not even in the game. Mac Jones is going to start again, and Mac Jones couldn't get into the red zone. They couldn't get a touchdown. They lost the game, but they lost by just field goals. So Mac Jones is going to be in the game, and they have a number 32 overall defense going up against the Lions.
Mac Jones plus that. Oh, they might get beat by 20 something.
Yes. So I just think even with an abysmal game that Jared Goff had with 5 interceptions, he's due. He's going to come back. He'll bounce back this game. He'll probably have 4 or 5 touchdowns, throwing to all those receivers and those running backs in the backfield. I just don't see it. I like the cover. I like the spread, and I like them to cover it. Like you said, it could be 21. We'll see.
Yeah.
Sam Darnold won last week with 5 interceptions, so it could be done.
Right. And so my next pick, Green Bay, -6 against the Bears. The wheels have just fallen off with the Bears. The Bears are at home, and I still don't like them right now. I like Green Bay. They had a bye, and Jordan Love was resting that groin, so we'll see how he does. He has been throwing a bit of a turnover machine. He's been throwing touchdowns, but he's also been throwing interceptions as well. But man, the Bears just look toxic and dysfunctional within that organization. They got rid of their offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron. So the offensive line it's got bad play, and the quarterback's not able to get the ball to his receivers. I just think Green Bay going up against the probably one of the worst rush defenses. Josh Jacobs should be able to handle the rock, go out there. It seems like that's style in Chicago. The style of play is run the ball, and they got to keep up with Minnesota and with the Lions. So I like them. I like the pick, and I like -6. That's a touchdown. So they'll get it done.
I was going to say about the Packers, if any team is going to peak come playoff time and get better, and I'm talking one of the good teams in the NFL, would be the Packers more than anyone else. I could see them peaking come playoff time. I mean, they were my pick to win the Super Bowl this year. They were my preseason pick, and I'm sticking with it, even though at this moment the Lions are the best team in the NFL. At this moment, but I see the Packers peaking as the year goes along. And I can see them winning a playoff game in Detroit.
The NFC North is ultra competitive. That's the best division, hands down, in the league right now.
Yeah, I would say that. I just think the Packers, I got them winning this game, but I still don't see them at the end of the day winning. They're not a complete team. The Lions, they got past 5 interceptions by Jared Goff in the game and still won a game. I just says to me that's a complete team. That's a team like the Kansas City Chiefs. They find ways to win, regardless of what they may be lacking at that moment in the game. If Patrick Mahomes is not having his best game, somebody else is stepping up. Their defense is stepping up. I just think that great teams find ways to win, and they eventually get to the big dance. And to me, Jack, my picks are Kansas City and the Detroit Lions. I picked those in the beginning. I think they're going to make it to the Super Bowl.
And I'm going to tell you the thing about that. I mean, we, as much as you and I, Jay Trent, especially in the NFC South, don't really want to admit this. When you're thinking about complete teams, now we're coming into week 11, so this is the time of year that these talks are very much relevant because we've passed that halfway point. And this is the time of season that players got to play to stay, and you got to win to stay in. And the complete team talk, Atlanta Falcons, they are the equivalent of the Detroit Lions as far as being complete, as far as the NFC division goes, because 49ers aren't as much as what they were. They just getting McCaffrey back. Green Bay looks like they may be a very close runner, but I could definitely see Atlanta, Detroit, or Green Bay for the NFC. Because I'm literally sitting here going through my mind. I don't see another NFC team being more complete than those three teams. It's going to be a very tough run for the NFC divisional and on to the Super Bowl.
Well, yeah, I would say you can add Philadelphia probably to that mix as well. But
but I'm not too sold. They're playing good, or Commanders. They're so neck and neck with the Commanders, and Jaden Daniels playing lights out. It's kind of hard for me to put them in because of how Philadelphia did last year. I know we're not supposed to really go in the past, but they lost Fletcher Cox. They lost Jason Kelsey. I feel like they're still suffering some holes on that defense because of those.
Their defense has played really well, the Eagle defense.
But not like they were. Like, they're not like,
I think under Vic Fangio, they've been pretty good. I really.
The last few games they've been. I mean, look, they're holding opponents under 20 points a game. So I mean, that's all you can ask if you can at least give a bend but don't break style of defense. Yeah. But like if Pags was here, I'm pretty sure he would disagree with all of us. He'd probably tell them they're the best team in the world. But
no, Pags in the beginning of the year, to his credit, he saw the Eagles losing to the Lions in the NFC Championship game. That's what he kind of sees happening. He hated to say it, but he sees the Eagles going to the NFC Championship game and the Lions being just maybe a little too much.
I can't wait to get my Lions shirt. I can't wait to get my Lions championship shirt.
I would say I like the Lions too, and I picked them. But I wouldn't be surprised if a team like Philadelphia will come in and upset them, especially if Jared Goff, like I mentioned before, Mac. I know you're listening, Mac. I said interior pressure gets to Jared Goff. He gets rattled and he makes some bonehead mistakes. Five interceptions. You can't do that in the playoffs. That would be tough. But my last pick would be the upset of the day, and I think I got Buffalo beating Kansas City. In Buffalo.
Wait. To a lot of people, that's not an upset. That's a pretty even game going in. I mean, don't give yourself credit like, I'm picking this upset.
They're 9-0 going against the two teams. You really think
the Bills are favored, right?
No, they're not favored. I mean, the Chiefs are -1. Chiefs are -1.
But what kind of upset is that if it's 1 point either way? That's not an upset. I mean, you're making it out like it's a bold thing. If you pick the Jaguars to beat the Lions, now that's an upset. Wow.
Okay.
But what? I mean, come on, 1 point.
I'm going to say that most people, even Vegas, has the Chiefs winning. They got them winning. I got the opposite. I think the Chiefs are going to win at home. I think, and they won the last 3 games.
You mean why you're picking the Bills, right?
Excuse me, my apologies. I'm picking the Bills at home. They won the last 3 games. That means they're not going to have Keon Coleman. They're not going to have Dalton Kincaid, but they got Knox, I believe, as a tight end, and I think Amari Cooper may be back. I'm not sure he's questionable.
That's a big hole.
I think this is a little different, James. You're thinking, correct me if I'm wrong. I think your mindset is, and most people think the Bills' you think the Bills' mindset is, we're finally going to get over the top against Kansas City. They lost them in the playoffs, but they got over the top in a sense last year. They beat them in the regular season.
They're beating them the last 3 in the regular season.
Right, exactly. And then come playoff time, the Chiefs had their number once again.
But to me, yes, you're right. So what I'm thinking is this has to be a statement game as if it's the playoffs. Like, we got to meet these guys again, and we got to beat them. Meaning a deciding factor. So I like them to do that. I think Josh Allen is playing at his best, and I like them even with some of the injuries, because even the Chiefs.
Coleman is out.
He's out for sure, and. But they got James Cook as well. I just think that, and the defense is playing well but the Chiefs have like a number 2, number 3 defense, and they're tough. But I just like the Bills at home, and I think they're gonna win this one.
You're
But-
right about it being a statement game in a certain sense. I think for the Chiefs, it's not a statement game. I think the Chiefs have turned the corner, the halfway point in the season. You know, they played 9 of the 17 games. They're unbeaten. Now I think very gently there's an unbeaten watch. You know, probably within the Chief building, Travis Kelce said, we don't just want to win the Super Bowl. We want to win every game we're playing. Of course, that's the thing you say, but I know they're sensitive about the first loss. It's like a pitcher going into the 7th inning, so end of the 6th, having a perfect game. Even though it's a big, big game, everyone's thinking perfect game, perfect season. I don't think the Chiefs come close. I think they'll lose more than one game when all is said and done in the regular season. But this is kind of a statement game. And for Buffalo, they got blown out by the Ravens. If they're to lose decisively to the Chiefs, that's a statement game in reverse. That tells us, and maybe puts doubt in our mind, maybe we're not one of the real favorites here. We're a step behind the Ravens and the Chiefs, and that's not good for, their psyche.
Right.
And good morning to Robert. Good morning to Robert Butler, Sports Scope over there, our Titan fan extravaganza, all that. He said a loss would help Kansas City teach a teachable moment for Andrew. Hey, the Panthers are playing. Hold on, Jack. Hold on. Let me get my plug in real quick, because that's a perfect time for me to just say this one thing. I know you're not gonna let me say it anyway, but I'm still gonna say it. The Panthers are on a bye today because we just came out from Germany off that big win over the Giants, and we would be loving to make the whole NFL bow down to the row when we give Kansas their first loss on next Sunday, Kansas City. So yeah. So thanks for that, Robert. We would love to teach that. He said, remember the 07 Pats. Yes, sir, Robert. Tell him.
Well, that would be a trap game for Kansas City if they beat Buffalo next week with Carolina. It would be hard to get up for that game. But I mean, the Chiefs should handle the Panthers very handily, regardless of one way or the other.
Honey, we about to get 3 in a row, honey. We are on fire, as they say it in the South. Fire, not fire. We are on fire.
Well, Panthers draft pick is whatever. But listen, how's Bryce Young coming along?
He doing good. You see his name. Matter of fact,
I think you're looking at it another way. Bryce
I'm
Young
not.
isn't playing poorly, and he's doing well.
His power rankings have raised to his highest in his history of being in the league. He is now ranked higher than he has been. The Panthers have moved up to the number 23 power position. And so we ahead of the Jets. We ahead of the Saints. We only one ahead of the Saints, but we ahead of everybody, and we are coming. You hear me? You better be glad we're not playing your Jets, Jack. You better be glad.
On the open market, Panther tickets now cost more than $3. If I were
what Aaron Rodgers' shoes cost. They cost the same amount y'all gave Aaron Rodgers a flight to the Jets for. That's how much they cost him.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Let's start with the games.
Thank you, J Train, because he got to get his work. Jack won't be hurt so bad.
Yeah, you guys mentioned the Commanders before. Sonya was saying Jaden Daniels is lighting it up, this and that. The Commanders have lost their last 2 games. They lost last Thursday to the Eagles. They lost a week before to the Steelers, close game. And it could have been 3 losses in a row if it wasn't for that Tyreek Stevenson with the Bears committing that bonehead play. Okay? So sometimes, things are a little deceiving. Players go on a run or so on. But we talk about statement games. And the Ravens are playing at the Steelers today. And all the talk is Lamar Jackson, his lack of success against the Steelers. Like, is he going to put it behind them today? But to Lamar Jackson, this is kind of a statement game, I think, today against the Steelers defense. What do you think?
I think I'm going to give y'all I'm just gonna give y'all my point because I gotta hop out of here. Sorry, everybody. Everybody knows I got a little obligation that I have to take care of. I think that game is gonna be one that people need to just look out. The Steelers, Mike Tomlin always finds a way to get it done. However, I do have like a little note here. I want to talk about the Steelers real quick. I'm glad you said that. Hold on one second. That Commanders game, I guess if that's what you're talking about. Yeah, that Commanders game was basically one that I felt like like I said, Jaden Daniels, going lights out. Thank you, Linda. Yes, I'm awake now. I've had Linda, real quick. I've only slept like an hour and 10 minutes. I've been up all night working on the paper, and I was sleepy when I first got on here. But Jack is a metabolism booster because I'm wide awake now. So that game. I really wish that Daniels had won because I feel like this booster for him to come in, but dangerous Russell Wilson is on and broiling and baking everybody. The best thing that Mike Tomlin did was switch out quarterbacks because I think Justin Fields in that same situation would not have won that game. I think that it was basically at the end of the day. You get in their heads, like Jay Trey just pointed to. You get into their heads. You make them make costly mistakes, which is what it came down to, and it's lights out. And a point is all it takes to win the game, and that's exactly what Mike Tomlin and those Steelers did. They got it done. I don't know if y'all saw the game. Mike Tomlin had on the darkest shades in there. I'm like, dude, why do you have on those glasses? It's dark already. I mean, because he knew that Russ was coming in there, shining so bright that he was sparking flames, and he was just trying to block all the flames from Dangerous.
Look, I think this is going to be an excellent game. I can't wait to watch this game. Lamar versus Russell, Derrick Henry and the number one red zone offense versus their defense. Look, it's really going to be a good game. It's going to be a tough game, low scoring game. But I do see that I like the Steelers at home just edging out the Lamar and his team. You see Ravens lost to the Raiders and Browns. I don't know what statement they're trying to make. No, I mean I get where Jack is coming from. I think they're trying to make a statement because they need to win in the playoffs. They need to get past. They can get past the AFC Championship to get to the Super Bowl, but a statement game, though, is going to be against Kansas City, or rematch against Kansas City.
Well, the division's on the line. I mean, it's more than a statement game. I mean,
right.
If you're saying it's Lamar against Russell Wilson, then you may as well check it off as a Raven win. I mean, Lamar Jackson is better than Russell Wilson at this point, and it's not even close. Russell Wilson is competent in that he knows how to run an offense the way he showed last week against the Commanders. And I agree with Mike Tomlin. I would play him against over Justin Fields, for now. Fields did a decent job when he was a fill-in at the beginning of the year. But you have to look at upside. Who gives you the best chance at the end of the rainbow to win in the playoffs? And Russell Wilson gives you a better chance in the playoffs than Justin Fields. It doesn't mean Justin Fields can't be a starting quarterback in the league. That remains to be seen. But with Lamar Jackson's a star. I mean, he's one of the 5 best players in the NFL.
Absolutely.
And Lamar Jackson has been known to carry the Ravens at times. Take the team on his back. Now having Derrick Henry, the receivers he has, Flowers, etc. You could ask him to do a little less. But Lamar Jackson is an extraordinary talent.
I think that's what it's going to come down to. Russell Wilson is the more complete quarterback because he's a veteran. He's been to a couple of teams now, so he knows the dynamics of the game. Even though Justin Fields is a great quarterback, he has not gotten to that level. I think sometimes we get it mixed up that just because a quarterback is losing, that means that they themselves are a bad quarterback. But sometimes it could just be a difference maker of what team you're with. And we see that that's what Russell has going on now. This game is going to be amazing. It's going to be one of the highly watched games. I'm definitely excited about that. And J Train and Jack, I'm going to leave this to the Double J show. And I'm going to I'll be backstage manning the comments for you guys while I'm working behind the scenes so I can make sure we end on time. But I will see you guys. Jack and I will see you guys on Wednesday. And you guys carry on and y'all take care. Have a great Sunday, guys.
Have a good one.
You too. Thanks.
Well, I wanted to say one more thing about that game. I think the key matchup is the deciding factor likely is going to be Russell against that horrendous pass defense of the Ravens. He could take advantage of that with George Pickens and newly acquired Mike Williams, who scored a beautiful 32-yard touchdown from him last week against the Commanders. So I just think that's probably going to be the deciding factor, because you can contain Lamar Jackson, but you can't stop him. You can contain Derrick Henry, but you really can't stop him. But I'm interested to see how that rush defense of the Steelers too goes against them as well.
Yeah, it's big. I don't think Russell Wilson is going to take major advantage of the Ravens secondary, which is their weak point. You know, they've had injuries there, so on. He's just not that type of quarterback, you know, who's going to light it up with his arm. You know, he's going to create things with his legs. They're using the running game, a lot of, play action passes. But we'll see. There are a lot of implications in that game, with the division being the line and all. Yeah,
right.
But the Blues are still going to be in good shape for a wild card. But their tiebreakers at the end of the year, both teams know, what's really at stake. It could mean the difference between getting a bye or, having to play an extra game in the playoffs. There could be home field implications during the playoffs. But it's a good game. I just think the Ravens have a little more upside all in all as far as having the ability to go further. I mean, we're used to the Steelers team year after year. Tomlin's gone something like 17 years in a row having a winning record. That's extraordinary in the NFL. But how many of those years, James, have they been a legitimate Super Bowl threat? It's
not many.
Not many. It's like they get to the playoffs and they're there, having an outside chance to go to the Super Bowl, and it never plays out usually. And usually they get eliminated.
Right. There's some a level of continuity in the regular season, but no success or no cigar in the playoffs. Let's move on to another on the other side in the NFC divisional round, a divisional game between the Seahawks and the 49ers. Look, one's 4-5 Seahawks and 5-4. This is definitely a pivotal game between these two, and I like DK Metcalf coming back and return to the number 1 pass offense against the number 12 pass defense in the 49ers. Brock Purdy's coming off a tremendous game, 353 yards with 2 touchdowns. I like him to continue because the Seahawks pass defense, or their number overall defense, is 25th. And you get Christian McCaffrey back. This will be his second game back. I just think they're going to be much better. Even though these teams play well against each other, the 49ers won the first game. I think they sweep them this game. I think they're at home in San Francisco. I just don't think DK is enough to come back. Even if they do have the number 1 pass offense in the NFL, it's not enough. I think the 49ers win this one, and I think it's maybe by a touchdown or 2.
It's a big, big game. I mean, for both teams. I mean, Arizona's actually in first place at 6-4, and the Niners are 5-4, and Seattle's 4-5. Seattle loses this game, I mean, they're going to be in last place, after today. And they'll have 3 teams that they're going to have to, try to leap over. And even though a wild card berth technically will still be in play, it's going to be very hard to get there. And so it's, it's so big. Something about the 49ers, you could see them going on a run, perhaps. I mean, we keep talking about who's going to go to the Super Bowl from the NFC, and we're talking about, the Detroit Lions. And I'm mentioning, Mike, the Packers challenge him before the year's out, because I could see the Packers peaking. And then you think, maybe the Philadelphia Eagles. How come we're not talking about the 49ers? So either getting there to the Super Bowl or contending for it each year. Have they really slipped as a team, or did they just get off to a slow start? contract issues, injuries, etc., etc.
Right.
Let's get all their people back. They peak. They get in the playoffs. They're going to be a very tough out for anyone.
Yes, because people forget that this team for the last 4 years has been in the mix to get to the Super Bowl. And in a couple of years, they have gotten to the Super Bowl. So they're not like some scrubs where you can just scoff at them and not overlook them. You can't overlook them. I think part of it, their record is 5-4. They're at the midpoint of the season right now, and they're trying to get all their people back, which at the same time, we got George Kittle. He's questionable. Trent Williams and Nick Bosa. All these guys are questionable, and those are key pieces to their team's success. But having some of the other guys back, you can see what they've been doing. Even with some guys gone, some guys on, they still have kept themselves in the middle of the road. Like you said, I agree with you about them going on a run. I could see them going on a big run. And you can't count out the guy that leaves the helm, and that's Shanahan. His success, regardless of the biggest success that eludes him is winning the Super Bowl. Other than that, to be good.
And there's even a little turmoil on the sidelines when Jake Moody missed 3 kicks and Deebo Samuels gets mad at him. You have a right to get kind of a little annoyed at your kick if he misses 3 field goal attempts. But it doesn't help so much to snap at them because kickers don't feed off emotion. I remember, even in the NFC Championship game years and years ago when the Giants got there, they were playing in cold Green Bay and the kicker missed a couple of kicks and Tom Coughlin is yelling at the sideline, you better make those kicks. It's -1 degrees out. And to just chastise a kicker, I don't think that's the answer to do it. Kickers have to be detached from the game in large part and just concentrate and focus, be very exact on what they have to do. Because I somehow think emotion hurts a kicker. It doesn't help them.
Look, I will say it's your only job. That's what you're supposed to do is make field goals. Yeah. But saying that, if I'm your teammate, I'm not going to shoot you down because ultimately I don't want the game to depend on you. You missed 3 field goals. That's because we couldn't get to the red zone or we couldn't score a touchdown. So I think some of that, you got to take some responsibility, Deebo Samuels, and saying we couldn't get to the red zone, we couldn't get to the end zone. Part of that's on us. We shouldn't even be depending on the kicker. Yes, you need the kicker. You missed 3 field goals, fine. But I wouldn't chew you out on the sideline. I'd maybe say something to the coach and then let the coach handle that. But as a player, you got to contain your emotions, man. And again, take some responsibility for not scoring a touchdown.
I got to tell you why Jets with a kicker like the screw up that happened this week. Greg Zuerlein, the Jet kicker, who was one of the best kickers in the NFL the last couple of years. He's had a miserable season, and his kicking's been so bad it may have cost the Jets a couple of games. They would have won the Denver game had he made a 50-yard at the end. Okay, he missed it. They forgave him. He kicked poorly against Minnesota. He had a few really bad games. So they put him on injured reserve. How hurt he is, I don't know, but it's apparent they're going to move on from him. So they brought someone else in. I'm having a brain cramp to kick his name right now. So what the Jets did after the kick had a good game, they put him on the practice squad, figuring no one's going to pick him up. And if someone picks him up, he's still going to want to be with the Jets so he could kick for the rest of the year. The Steve Buckler, the Chiefs' great kicker, he gets injured. So the Chiefs need a kicker. So they take him off the Jets practice squads. But the kicker has an option of staying with the Jets and going to the Chiefs. Well, he'll have no future next year as their kicker because they have their franchise kicker, one of the best in the NFL. He elects to go to the Chiefs. He elects to go to the Chiefs even though he has no future beyond this year with the Chiefs. And why is he auditioning with the Chiefs for a future job in the NFL when he can audition with the Jets? I guess he's so excited about being a Kansas City Chief figuring, you want to know something? There's a chance I could kick in the Super Bowl. And I don't even know if he'd be kicking for them the rest of the year.
Absolutely.
He might be gone after a few games.
And not only that, you got to think about some of the guys who were the heroes in Super Bowls. Some of them were kickers, Adam Vinatieri, and guys that, like Larry Brown for the Dallas Cowboys in the 90s. He caught a few interceptions. Went on to do nothing, absolutely nothing for the Raiders. But my point is, the exposure will allow him to get another job, and if he does well, because right now the exposure is on the champions. The Kansas City Chiefs, as they're 9-0, and if a guy can continue to help win games for them, why not? Because you got another guy right now kicking for the Jets, right?
Yeah. Well, they dug someone else up. Obviously, someone has to kick for you. But you mentioned something before with the Chiefs, which I kind of disagree with. It sounds good what you said. It sounds very good, and most people buy into it. The team finds a way to always manage to win. That's not my type of team in the long run to win a Super Bowl. I like a team that can show a level of dominance, because if you're just managing to always find a way to win, like the Chiefs did last week when they blocked a kick, Denver is going for the victory on the last play of the game. They're lining up for a field goal and it gets blocked by Kansas City. That's great that the Chiefs special teams bailed them out and they won the game, and I admire that. I like the teams that show a level of dominance, because they're the teams that are much more likely to continue winning, because if you're living life on the edge, it catches up to you sooner or later. And the danger is it could catch up to you during a playoff game. I saw it happen with the 49ers under the Joe Montana era when Roger Craig fumbled in that NFC Championship game. Everything is going along great. They look like they're a team that could repeat, and then they somehow lose at the end of that NFC Championship game to the Giants. And that's what would bother me about this Chief team, all the close wins. I hope they're not too satisfied. I hope they're thinking to themselves, we're a lot better than this. I don't care that we're 9-0. Like the Bobby Knight mentality. Your team wins by 25 points in your basketball game, and you're thinking, and the players come into the locker room, they're smiling, they're happy, but you see that they're sloppy. So you're working them extra hard, and you're angry at them because you want absolute perfection.
Well, you're talking about the team that's won the last 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah, static. No, your mic is kind of vibrating.
Any better?
That's keep talking.
Okay, so you're talking about the team that won the last 2 Super Bowls, and they're
fix your mic.
Yeah.
Well, you got to talk to know how it is now.
Testing. 1, 2.
That's good. Better.
Testing 1.
Go ahead. Back to football now. Good job.
So you're talking about a team that's won the last 2 Super Bowls. Everybody's giving you their best. It's going to be very difficult to win games because everybody's trying to beat to beat a man. You got to beat the man. Right now, KC is the man. They've been a man for the past 2 years. It's very difficult to three-peat. Nobody's done it. Nobody's done the three-peat before in the Super Bowl era. This might be the first team to ever do that. It's gonna be hard to win games, but doesn't mean they're not capable of going to. It's the same thing. Last year. Patrick Mahomes wasn't at his best at all. But they relied upon their defense to help them out, and he got better in the playoffs. Then the same thing might happen to them this year. I mean, I understand fully what you're saying is blowing teams out, but look, in 2007, the undefeated Patriots were blowing teams out, and they ran into a wall of defensive line with the Giants, and they lost. So I mean, it can happen. But I mean,
that unbeaten Patriot team. I was following them during the year, and they were one team that kind of was hurt in the long run by being unbeaten. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm a big believer. If you have a chance to go unbeaten, you don't rest your regulars and tank a game the way Jim Caldwell did with the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts were like 14-0, and he's resting their players. And Peyton Manning comes over to him on the sideline, and he's saying, like, put me in. And Jim Caldwell says, no, our goal is to win a Super Bowl. Even if we lose, we lose a game, we kind of hold back a little. I understand the most important thing at the end is winning a Super Bowl. But if you have a chance, to go unbeaten, you've got to plow through as far as I'm concerned. You don't hold back like in one game. And how much does it help holding back in a darn game? So you're resting your players a half or whatever. But I think the Patriots mentally, that was a big burden because they had a 17-game schedule. And you talk about the Miami Dolphins, they had a 14-game schedule. So the Dolphins won 17 in a row, including the playoffs, to be unbeaten. But then Patriots won 18 in a row. They, had a longer way to go. If people just think about the end result at the end, they don't look at things as is. I'm writing a book now. I'm just detouring briefly as an example to boxing. I'm writing a book on Michael Spinks now. And Michael Spinks won the gold medal. He had a couple of walkout bouts. He only fought one time and got in the gold medal match and won the gold medal. And there was another guy on the team, Charles Mooney, who had to fight 5 times to get to the gold medal match, which he lost and wound up with a silver medal. He fought one more fight than even Sugar Ray Leonard did for his Olympic thing. But all people look at the end result. Oh, what medal did you get? That's all. And it's kind of like, but football, if you have a chance to be unbeaten, you go to immortality. Imagine if the Patriots won that giant game. Would we be looking at them maybe as the greatest team of all time? Possibly.
Absolutely. Possibly. I'd say yes, to be honest with you.
And they asked Tom Brady. Tom Brady's been to 10 Super Bowls, okay? He's won 7. And they asked him, would he trade 2 Super Bowl victories for that one game to win to be unbeaten? And he says, let's not kid ourselves. Let's be honest. I would. 2 Super Bowls, meaning he'd have one less Super Bowl victory because he'd get the unbeaten one. So instead of having 7 Super Bowl victories, he'd have 6, obviously, yeah. But how many would Brady would he trade 3 in for that? He might do it. He might actually
if you're the only
do
team,
it.
to ever get 18 games instead of 16 games. Yeah, I don't know. That's funny that he trade that in for some guys.
He would trade. He probably wouldn't do it to his teammates if he knew it would deprive his teammates of a Super Bowl. He didn't mean it that way. He wouldn't hurt his teammates who, for their glory of the Super Bowl, but for himself, he was talking about.
Right. Yeah. Well, look, let's not kid ourselves. The new Patriots right now are the Kansas City Chiefs, and they're probably going to go. They're going to lose a game or two, like you said.
Well, let's look at what happens today. If they win today, it's double-digit victories. They're 10-0. The unbeaten watch begins.
Right.
It hasn't quite begun yet. We talk a little about it. I'm kind of taking a quick look, forgive me here, at the Kansas City Chiefs schedule because right now to see who they would have left. Let me see, KC, Chiefs. Wow, let me put Chiefs. Wait, let me do it another way. J-Train. They play next week. Let's see who the Chiefs play. Chiefs. Don't tell me they got a bye. No, they had a bye.
And after this, let's get to the next game.
Chiefs at Panthers. If they win today, they're 10-0. And all due respect to Sonya, they'll be 11-0. Week after, come on. They're not.
We can agree.
And the following week,
we can both agree on
J-Train on Black Friday, Raiders at the Chiefs. Now they're going to be 12-0.
Yeah.
Well, probability, even though the Raiders beat them in KC last year, they're probably 12-0. Following week, Chargers at Chiefs. More likely than not, they're 13-0. More, if everything is riding.
That could be a tough game, though.
And then Chiefs. The following week, Chiefs at Browns. Good chance they're 14-0.
Yeah.
Oh man. The schedule's looking good. The following week.
They're gonna finish 15-1, be 15-2 or 16-1.
Texans at Chiefs.
That's a tough one.
Tough game.
There's a possibility they can lose that one too.
But they're at Kansas City. Am I boring there? Should I cut this?
No, those are good things to talk, but we got more games to cover.
Yeah. Okay, but to wrap it up, Steelers next to last game, they're at Pittsburgh. And let me just finish the job. In the last game of the season, if the unbeaten thing is on the line, January 5th, I don't see a game for them here. Okay. Man, oh man. I'm sorry about this.
They must have a bye.
There they go. Wait. They play at Denver. So
Ooh, another tough one. I say at worst, they're 14-3. At worst, they're 14-3.
Well, I'm not looking to see their chances of going unbeaten, but every game, if you break it down individually, if they were playing at Detroit, I'd say, they're in trouble.
Right. Well, let's move on to Green Bay, another divisional round. A divisional in-play game against the Bears. Look, they had a bye. We gave time to let Jordan Love rest his groin injury. Josh Jacobs is going to be running up against a pedestrian run defense for the Bears at number 24. I like them to really lean heavy on Josh Jacobs, especially playing at the Bears. At that type of field, most games they're going to run it. And I think that with all the dysfunction going on with the Bears, their offense is good. I mean, on paper they're good, but offensive line is so question. They lost their Shane Waldron. They fired their offensive coordinator. So I just really think that like you say, you pick Green Bay. I'm picking them to win this game at least. They're 6-3. They're going to be 7-3 when it's all said and done. The Bears just don't have enough going on. Whatever the situation is going on behind closed doors, it's really affecting them on the field. And their poor offensive line play is not going to help them against this team. I like them winning. They got them. The spread is -6. I got them covering that, and I think they might have a little more.
I agree. I think the Packers will cover. Matt Eberflus, is he going to last the season? They're 4-5 now. They were 4-2. And had they won that Washington game, if it wasn't for the bonehead play Tyreek Stevenson, they'd be 5-2. And then even losing 2 games after that, they'd be over 500. I don't think the panic would set in. I don't think the wheels would have been quite falling off the same way it is now. And that whole situation by Eberflus, how it was handled with Tyreek Stevenson and him walking off the practice field, when he found out he was demoted. Why did he first find out when he took the practice field? Why wasn't he called into the office? And the coach said, I can't tolerate that. It's one thing, your player beats you, he gets behind you, he scores. I can deal with that. I can work with that. Not that type of mental error. You cost your team the game. That was ridiculous. And you're going to the practice squad for 1 game. Then the player won't take the field. He won't walk off it. And there was like that indecisive. And Caleb Williams, they asked him about the coaching staff. And he says he has no issues with the coaching staff. Like he's giving an endorsement to the coaching staff. I don't get this. A rookie quarterback is giving his blessing as far as who's going to be coaching him.
I think the Tyreek Stevenson incident, it was a peek at what's going on behind closed doors back there, meaning not having enough discipline. There's lack of discipline. That's just an indictment of the lack of discipline and not even give, like you said, giving the guy his discipline right away. And then the guy clearly, if he's responding like that by not practicing, that means there hasn't been discipline the whole time. He's probably a player's coach. He's not a coach. Eber, I always forget how to pronounce this guy's name, but he doesn't have a whole strong hold of his team. And that just since this Tyreek Stevenson incident and the last few games has just been a clear indication of that.
Well, how would you have handled it? This is how I would have handled it with Tyreek Stevenson. I would have him keep away from the team right after the game. He wasn't going to play the following week. You don't show up on the facility. So when the players come to the team meeting, they notice he's not there.
Yes.
And that's the signal. The coaching staff isn't putting up with it. And I would just quickly address the team. Look, I'm just going to address this quickly. We're going to decide what to do. We're not sure whether we're going to cut him, whether we're going to keep him. We haven't made up their mind, but we want him keeping away. We don't tolerate plays like that. Okay?
It should have been nipped immediately.
And then a few days later, he shows up at the team facility, and maybe he could practice with the team, but during the next week's game, he's on the sideline. And he could be on there in street clothes on the sideline. He could be cheering for the team if he wants in street clothes. I mean, that if you look at the Bears season, I mean, the wheels fell off with that play. That was a turning point. How it reflected, on the organization and all what went down. But the big issue is Caleb Williams. We don't know how good he is. He's got a lot of potential. But all these rookie quarterbacks now, I don't think it's a case of a rookie coming in like C.J. Stroud playing great and just getting better. They all regress a little bit, and they're not really regressing. I mean, they're creating an illusion. Maybe they're a little better than they are in the beginning because it takes time to be a quality NFL quarterback in a lot of cases. Brock Purdy, I heard earlier this year, he might be regressing. I didn't see him regressing. I saw guys hurt on offense, and I saw the Niner team a bit of a mishmash there. So I
agree with that.
But with Caleb Williams, his problem is they're going to compare him to other quarterbacks. But now Jaden Daniels, he's taking a gentle step backwards. I don't think there's a big deal, with these rookie quarterbacks.
There's a slight regression with Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams. Again, I think the situation, if you have to compare those two, we're looking at the organization versus organization, and we're looking at offense versus offense. I think there's a bit of more continuity with some success and a huge transition. There was a transition period because Washington wasn't good last year, but they look at them now. They put the pieces in. They put the right coach in. I think all of that matters. And to have a guy like Caleb Williams come in, if you traded quarterbacks, would Caleb Williams have success in Washington, and would Jaden Daniels have success in Chicago? I don't know if they would be better. Well, I mean, I don't think Jaden Daniels would have success in Chicago because just the level of history of Chicago's issues with cultivating quarterbacks, it's just never been good. It's just bad. So I would say, yes, give it time. Hopefully there's a situation where he doesn't have to change the coaches. I hope they don't change the coach right away. They fired the offensive coordinator. Maybe they get a better guy and to come in and call the offensive plays, and they could build up their offensive line to be a little bit better. But, it's neither here nor there. I think we both agree that Green Bay is going to cover.
Well, they're going to have a new offensive coordinator in Chicago next year in all probability because they're going to have a new head coach. He's going to be allowed to bring his own guy in. It would be a mistake to force an offensive coordinator on him and say, well, Caleb Williams is doing this or that. Unless Caleb Williams starts having a lot of success the rest of the year with his new coordinator, then you'd probably keep the head coach as well if that were the case.
You would think. But, I mean, I guess that all depends on their success going forward this year. If they can win a few games and get close to.
You're looking up at the Lions, the Packers, and the Vikings. And they get cooked with the Bears.
Right. This is the reality that I thought in the beginning that, okay, this is where they're going to be. And the truth is coming out. Maybe it was just, you look at the games that they won against subpar teams. So yes, the truth is coming out. Let's go with the Falcons and the Broncos, Jack. Look, the Falcons are coming off a surprising loss against my team, the Saints. You get a motivated interim coach in there and get everybody to buy in for a game or two. And you have an option. You like, let's go in and beat our rivals. And they're at home. Fans are in it. And the Falcons lay an egg. They missed 3 field goals. Younghoe Koo missed 3 field goals. And Kirk Cousins, he made a bit of a run at the end, but the Saints defense were motivated enough to stop him. And I don't think the Saints, we'll talk about the Saints later, but I think the Falcons are they're hit or miss. Kirk Cousins is a bit of a hit or miss guy. When they're on, they're on. When they're off, they're off. Because let's not kid ourselves. The Saints are 3-6 now, and the Falcons are supposed to be the pride of the NFC South, and they're showing inconsistencies. And the Broncos, on the other hand, there's not much expectation of them, but Sean Payton, I think Sonia mentioned it earlier, he has a grasp on what the NFC South is, and he played against the Falcons for years, and he knows how to play against them, and I don't see it being any different, being that they have a great defense here. They lost the last game by a field goal block. That was against the Chiefs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I like the Broncos in an upset here at home.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Falcons. The Broncos are 5-5. I understand what you're saying with Sean Payton. The bottom line is they still have their rookie quarterback in Bo Nix. Bo Nix isn't a difference maker. He's well coached by Sean Payton. He makes plays once in a while. Denver's offense is like so. The Falcons are a big tease. Sonia before mentioned them being maybe a Super Bowl contender with a couple other teams. They're not any Super Bowl contender. What they might be able to do is conceivably win a playoff game because they're probably going to be in the playoffs. They have a 2-game lead in their division. And the two games they had of Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And a 2-game lead in that division is like gold. They're 3 games ahead of the Saints and the Panthers. So a 2-game lead is huge. So even if the Falcons lose today and their lead shrinks to 1 game, they still have a foothold in that division as far as I'm concerned because they're going to do well enough going forward to ultimately win the division or be in the playoffs. Maybe Kirk Cousins plays 1 good playoff game. He's not capable of putting 2 good playoff games in a row, judging by his history. He usually will come up flat in that scenario. So, the Falcons are what they are. In a weak division, they're going to win it. They're going to do what people projected they were going to do in the beginning of the year. And to leave it at that. And Denver, if they do get in the playoffs, if they sneak in as a wild card, they're not a serious threat for anyone. I know we're going to hear about their defense, their this, their that. They could be pesky, and anyone could beat anyone. I understand that. But Denver needs this game. They need it more.
But Jack, I got to disagree with you about the quarterback. Look, when he got drafted, Bo Nix, I know what he was when he played in the SEC for Auburn. He wasn't all that great. He got to Oregon. He got in a better offensive system. He could throw the ball here and there. I think he's average at best. But what I do have to give the kid credit for is he's hanging in there and he's actually helping them win some games. He was offensive rookie of the week last week, and I think he going against the Falcons defense. I'm not sold on the Falcons defense. He might have some options at home and some success against them. That's why I have them potentially, particularly with that defense, stopping the Falcons and winning. But I agree with you about the Falcons and the NFC South. They're going to win the division, hands down. That's not a hard thing to do, considering the 2 teams, the Saints and the Panthers at the bottom, and Tampa Bay. They get healthy. Maybe they get a little better. It's kind of a bit of bad luck to lose top 2 wide receivers. Yes, to lose those guys. So, otherwise, I'd say they'd be in the mix as well. Yeah.
Well, to lose the type of games that Tampa Bay has lost this year, they come back to haunt you. That's the difference between going to the playoffs and not going to the playoffs. And to make up the couple of games on the Falcons, it can be done. But I think the Falcons will be a big tease the rest of the year. You know, maybe a team, the Buccaneers, maybe even the Saints, for all we know, are going to get close to them at some point. And then when all is said and done, Falcons win the division.
Let's go to your team, the Colts versus the Jets. Jets are at home. Colts are 4-6. They got a bit of a better record than you, Jack, at 3-7. And Anthony Richardson is back, and he's back ready to take on the Jets' pass defense and light them up for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns. Do you think that's going to happen?
No, I don't think it's going to happen. But
Of course not.
I'm curious to see, are the Jets going to bounce back? I mean, they played with very little character, very little pride last week. The tackling was bad. And that's a key thing, you know, to judge a team on. If the tackling is bad, that shows a direct lack of enthusiasm. And the problem with the Jets with Aaron Rodgers is the offense is so predictable. He's dinking and dunking. He's going to move the ball from his own 20 down to the other team's 10. They can't finish. They've shown a pathetic, inability to finish drives this year, and it's bad. I mean, you win one game, and all of a sudden things start becoming a little upbeat. You know, the Jets win this game, they'll be 4-7, and they're going to look and say, if we could keep winning, the playoffs are not the question. I mean, that's the mentality how they're going to look at it. But if you can't beat the Colts at home, not that the Colts are that bad, with Anthony Richardson, with his problems, which have been as bad as Aaron Rodgers. But, if you're a Jet fan the way I am, you're waiting for the team to show up. There are no more moves to make. Tyrone Smith, okay, their great offensive, left tackle, he's out. Bashanu, the offensive tackle who they drafted from Penn State, when I thought they should have drafted the tight end Brock Bowers, who's been really excellent with the Raiders this year. Okay, they made that move. Let's see how that works out. I'm waiting for the Jets to show up. Like I said, there are no more moves to make. At wide receiver, Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams, you're not gonna get a better receiver elsewhere. You're not gonna draft someone better, trade for someone better. Running back, Breece Hall, you made moves for the offensive line. Defensively, you got the personnel pieces there. It's
Well, those are the running backs are my disappointment. I mean, is it the offensive line? Why hasn't Breece Hall? I had Breece Hall having a breakout year this year, and it's just been a little bit of a disappointment rushing. Do you attribute that to the lack of the ability of run blocking?
I don't know what I attribute anything to anymore with the Jet team. Is it possible, and I'm asking you, that we overrated Breece Hall? I mean, he came in, highly touted. They got him at something like the 34th pick in the draft. And he was outstanding as a rookie, outstanding. And we looked for him only to get better. Is it possibly took a little step back? I mean, the Jets were so hung up on pass protection for Rodgers, and the pass protection improved a lot. It still wasn't where you wanted it to be, but it was a lot better than last year. But the run blocking, was it any better? Did it get worse? You got a bunch of guys who can protect against the pass. I don't know. Robert Saleh, was a blessing in disguise for him that he got fired. The Jets have been 1-4 since he left. So the worst thing that could have happened for Robert Saleh's career is for the Jets to take off and make the playoffs going forward. But Matt LaFleur, Green Bay, looking to hire Robert Saleh next year because Robert Saleh and him are very, very close. He's there at Green Bay, even actually as an advisor there. He stayed at Coach Matt LaFleur's home, and Robert Saleh hired Matt LaFleur's brothers, his offensive coordinator. People forget that, and he was let go, a couple of years ago. So, But with
Look,
that said, I think the Jets are going to beat the Indianapolis Colts. I think it's going to be a 24-17 game. But what I want to see, Aaron Rodgers do something he hasn't done all year, stretch the field. Don't dink and dunk the Colts. I don't want to see a Jet win only because of a gritty defensive effort that they win by 7 points. I want to see some long passes down. I want to see him hit Garrett Wilson on long passes. I want Devontae Adams to go deep. I mean, I want
well,
to see
Devontae Adams is probably too old to be going deep. He's probably more so of an intermediate guy. Like you said, Garrett Wilson, he needs to hit him to take the top off of defense. But I got the Jets winning as well. Anthony Richardson coming back is not big news to me. And as a matter of fact, that's bad news for the Colts. And Taylor is as good as he's been. He's in better form. He's in his 2021 form. I just don't see them having enough for the Jets. I think the Jets are going to win, like you said, around 27, but it might be a little closer than that. It might be 27-24. But I got them winning at home. Let's move on to the Vikings versus the Titans. We don't have to spend long on this game. I just think that there's a slight regression in regards to because the Titans have the number one defense. And I'd be interested in seeing how Sam Darnold does against their defense, but I just don't think the Titans. I mean, Will Levis coming back. Oh my goodness, I'm just not excited about that for them, and I just think that the Vikings defense is going to be enough to get them a win, and maybe they may not even score touchdowns this game either. They may kick 5 field goals and win the game.
I'm picking the Titans to win outright 16-13. I think it's going to be that type of game. I don't see Will Levis do much with the Minnesota defense, but maybe they get a touchdown, 3 field goals. Maybe the defense puts them in position to get a touchdown. You know, Sam Darnold, I have a Sam Darnold watch today. I was high on Sam Darnold. I was the guy who wanted him to go. I thought he'd have a big year with the Vikings this year, very good year, put it that way. And he has, all in all. But lately, it's kind of leveled out, and he really hasn't played well recently. And if the Vikings lose this game, I don't know how much it hurts them. I think there's a good chance they still are going to be a wild card. And let's face it, even if the Vikings win this game, they're not going to beat out the Lions for the division. You know, they have a couple of losses. They're not going to, it's Detroit's division, I think, basically to win, at this point. And that includes Green Bay. I think the others just want to play well, be a wild card. Not that they should give up on winning the division, but I think the Titan defense is a big challenge for the Minnesota offense.
Right. I think, again, well, I mean, Jack, I disagree with as far as the score it goes. I think the Vikings are going to win the game. They're at the Titans, home field, but they're still. I think their defense is just really good enough to be able to sustain and stop Will Levis. As a matter of fact, it might force him into an interception or two. We'll see how that goes. How about the Rams versus New England? Rams coming off a tough loss to Miami, and they're 4-5. They're in the mix in their division. They're still in the mix with everybody else, and New England is 3-7. Offense doesn't look great. I like the promise for Drake May, and I think that there's some promise for their team to have success as long as they put some pieces around him, including an offensive line. But other than that, I mean, they have a decent defense as well. But other than that, I think I like Matthew Stafford. He's got both his receivers. They got Kyron Williams. I just think they go to New England and steal a win. Well, I wouldn't say it's steal. They go ahead and get a win and come back home.
Yeah, Rams are a better team. They should win this game something like 24-13. Drake May took his offensive lineman out to dinner, I heard. He should have taken his receivers out. Then again, he might not know who they are because they don't show up. He doesn't really have any wide or whatever. We were talking in the beginning of the show with Travis Hunter. Man, oh man, I could see. I mean, I don't know will New England would be in a position to draft him, but he would be ideal. He would be.
Look, let me say this about Travis Hunter. I think he's going to play more defensive back than he played wide receiver on the pro level. You're not going to have a guy taking 100 plays in the NFL. It just doesn't work like that.
That's the stick mentality. If he can handle it, you let him do it. If he wants to do it, if he can handle it, let him.
I guess if he can handle. I mean, it's almost unlikely to be able to handle that. The level of play is significantly higher in the NFL. It's going to be tough for him to do that. Some team will try to, allow him to do it. I think he'll probably get, let's just say, I would say 85-15 or 90-10 defense to offensive plays. If he does get it when he gets in the league, he'll probably play a higher defensive plays than he does play offense. He'll play some offense.
They'll probably make him a situational play on offense.
Correct.
And partly to keep him happy.
Right, exactly.
Like they did with Deion Sanders in the Super Bowl when the Niners played the Chargers. The Niners were blowing the Chargers out. They threw Deion in an offensive wide receiver and threw him a long pass one play because he kind of wanted to be a two-way player. But if he's doing he could do it.
We both got the Rams. Let's look at the last few of these teams. I know we got like about 10 minutes left.
Okay, here. I'll make it quick. My comment.
So the Browns versus the Saints. The Saints are playing at home versus the Browns. Famous Jameis is making his entrance back to New Orleans. Dennis Allen got fired too soon to get for Famous Jameis to get his revenge against Dennis Allen. Does he get revenge against the Saints? Who knows? Look, you don't know what Jameis you're going to get. He's played 2 games already. He was excellent in the first game. He was terrible in the second game. That's just an indictment of what he's done his whole career. He's always known for the 30 for 30 guy, 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions. What is he going to do in New Orleans? I like the Saints to win at home. This might be considered a homer for me. I mean, Nick Chubb is back. He should have a good day because our defense is not that great against the run. But Jameis, we don't have a great pass rush. So we'll see if Jameis can actually light it up, but I don't know his receivers there. So he may have a good game. But I like the Saints under Rizzi. Rizzi has fired his team. So maybe they have enough and they get their center back, the guy that went down against the Eagles. Eric McCoy is finally back. So that might be a blessing in disguise for their run game, which they've been having a good run game all season, but their pass has been off. But I think it's enough. I think the Saints squeak out a close win, maybe 17-14.
Yeah, but 2019 type game with the Saints winning. I think they needed a little more than the Browns. They're going to be a little more motivated. I didn't know there was a thing going on with Jameis Winston and the former Saint coach Dennis Allen. I know at the end of last year, Jameis Winston called a play that was unauthorized at the end that created tension. I don't know, was that a reason the Saints moved on from him and allowed him to go to Cleveland? But I didn't realize there was any type of friction there.
Well, the friction was Jameis was hurt in the beginning of the 2022 season, and Andy Dalton got to play, and they kept Andy Dalton when Jameis wasn't hurt anymore. And so clearly Jameis was the better quarterback of the two, but Dennis Allen, that wasn't his guy, it was Sean Payton's guy. So he wanted his guy to come in, and that was Derek Carr. And that's how that played out. And so, yeah, it would have been more so against Dennis Allen versus the Saints, because he actually loved his time here in New Orleans. Let's see here. We both got the Saints winning that one. The Raiders versus the Dolphins.
Dolphins should win handily this game. I mean, the Dolphins on a little bit of an upswing. I think it's going to continue. I think for the rest of the season, they're going to win more than they're going to lose, but I think they left it too late. They lost too many rounds early in the fight, basically, to get the decision on the scorecards. In other words, to make the playoffs, to use that analogy.
I agree with you. I think Dolphins, they might not have enough to come back and win the fight, but enough to be, and if this is considered a round against the Raiders, they're going to win this round. I just think that the Raiders are totally dysfunctional in their organization right now, and while they have a really good defense, the number 11 pass defense against the number 25th pass offense. I think that's a bit ambiguous because Tua wasn't there, and they really didn't have good quarterback play during the games when he was gone. And I think he's going to bring them back. And I like them to win this game, and they might win at home by a couple of touchdowns. Let's go to the Chiefs versus the Bills. I know.
Well, we did that. I mean,
we
didn't do Houston at Dallas.
Well, let's go Houston. Yeah, let's go Texans versus the Cowboys. Dallas is just a mess right now, Jack. I like, even though CJ Stroud is showing a little bit of regression and he's having his sophomore slump right now. I like them still to win this game. Hopefully, I don't know if Nico Collins is back. I know he's been practicing. I thought he was back last week, but he didn't come back. Hopefully, he comes back for them. That will give him another weapon. But we'll see.
Now, Cowboys can't win a game at home. They have a home field disadvantage, and I would think they don't even want to be home because they hear all the boos, all the complaints. I think they're more comfortable just to get away from that, get away from the environment. It's obvious at this point the Cowboys they're not going to bounce back and make the playoffs and make a playoff run. And, that Prescott out the rest of the year, you kind of wonder, is Trey Lance going to be given a game to show what he could do? Because, Cooper Rush had success in the past as a backup, but clearly, he struggled in that role, when Dak was out this year, and the whole team is struggling. I mean, I'm not sure where the team is headed. They have certain veteran players. You wonder what's going to be with them. Micah Parsons, his contract. And I think it was the lack of moves that Jerry Jones made in the offseason. That was like a little bit of a red flag what this season could turn out to be. But, I think Dallas will be competitive. I don't think they're going to, just lay down for the Texans, right, because it's another Texas team. But I think when all's said and done, the Texans are better. They win something like 25-19.
Yeah, and you saw how the Texans played competitively against the Lions, and in all intents and purposes, they probably should have won that game, considering a player throws 5 interceptions. But again, going back to speaking about complete teams, the Lions found a way to win. And speaking of which, the Lions against the Jags, I mean, I got the Texans to win that game. But the Lions against the Jags, we don't have to really spend a lot of time on this. I got the Lions winning this game again, and I got them covering the spread minus 14.5. I just don't like the Jags right now, especially in the Lions den. Man, it's going to be a problem there.
Of all the teams in the NFL, James, the one I think under the most pressure to, at the very least, get to a Super Bowl, I discussed this with Mac, would be the Detroit Lions. They're under pressure to win it, but at least get there. That Detroit franchise has never gotten to a Super Bowl. There's more excitement amongst the Detroit Lion fan base than any other fan base in the NFL. And I want to hear, Buffalo Bill fan base is excited. Buffalo has a history of having gotten to the Super Bowl, even though it was ages ago. There's nothing like the Detroit fan base at this moment. And again, don't tell me about Buffalo. Don't tell me about the Eagles, who have great fan bases. I understand that. But the Lions have never been to a Super Bowl. And the way they lost last year, I think it's imperative they not only get there, but they win it. They finally have to get over the top. Because if they don't do it this year, when the heck are they going to do it?
Well, their fans have definitely suffered a lot. And, last time they went to an NFC championship game was in 1991 with Barry Sanders against the Redskins, and they lost that.
Forget that. We're talking Super Bowl.
Right, I agree with you. They got to get Super Bowl to bust this year. And they're so good right now, though. They've taken Sonya as their adoptive fan. Sonya, she doesn't have any thing going on with the Panthers right now, but we're getting some messages.
Revo makes a good point. I don't remember specifically when they went for the 2 points, but it drives me crazy when some of these coaches go for 2-point conversions. You don't go for the 2-point conversion unless you absolutely have to do it. unless the analytics are telling you, go ahead and do it. I hate when a team does that because if you go and you miss, it kind of deflates you in a way. I mean, wait till you have to go for the 2-point conversion, but coaches mismanage that. They mismanage time management. It drives me crazy sometimes.
Well, that said, I agree with you. That said, the Jacks are going to win this game and they're going to cover. And that's all.
Lions will cover, you mean?
Excuse me. The Lions will cover. And that wraps up our show today, everybody. Again, we miss Mac and wish him well and wish him a speedy recovery to come back. And thank you all for tuning in today. And we'll see you again this evening. Myself on Download and Jack Monday morning on Mac and Jack show. And we thank you for tuning in.
Had a good time.
Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk for America.